comes on, because it does a circle thing.
But, but there's the live.
We're going to assume we are live. Hi, I'm Penny.
Now we're live. Okay.
Ta-da!
It started counting.
I'm Penney Douglas, and this is my oldest son, Shawn, and this is his wife, Brandi. And they just flew in from Huntsville. Drove, actually.
They flapped really fast.
Yeah.
Really, really fast.
Hummingbirds.
Yeah. Hummed all the way. And Shawn graduated from homeschooling quite a while ago now.
Yeah, good 11 years ago.
I showed your diploma earlier today because I wanted people to see
Cool.
how nice the diplomas from homeschooldiploma.com come out.
Yeah.
So we can
have nice stuff too.
Yes. And transcript. I keep forgetting the name of the transcript, but transcripts can be done too. I've done transcripts for a lot of people. I haven't really had to do them for any of my kids. I didn't have to have a transcript for you, did I?
Nope.
But anyway, I asked Shawn and Brandi to talk about how Shawn, how he felt about being homeschooled and how he thinks it has influenced his life, and then his wife, how it has influenced him and her because of the way he was raised, the way he was homeschooled, and this kind of education that he had. So, Shawn, I'll just let you start out.
Well, for me, I really think that homeschooling was the only way that would have really worked for me personally. And I do think that, we have to really consider with every student, with every person, everybody has their own needs. Everybody has their own, some kids who are more extroverted, if you go the homeschooling route, you might find that you have to work harder to get them in groups of people and okay, so you want to be around. So I'm going to have to find good groups for you to be a part of that aren't going to lead you down the wrong path, but you're going to enjoy that interaction and enjoy the time together and all that. And for an introvert, I mean, it's a piece of cake. Okay, you want to stay home anyway, so just make sure I don't let you be too much of an introvert.
You did not want to be a part of any group.
No, and I would have never done well in an academic scenario where I'm surrounded with other kids and stuff like that. That would have been horrible for me. I wouldn't have been able to absorb any of it, and especially if there's any kind of bullying, if there's any kind of mistreatment like that. And there's a lot of that with public schools and even private schools. And Brandi can tell you that.
Yep. Just because you put academy at the end or private before school does not keep you safe from bullying and all the other things.
Yeah, Brandi went to two different private schools, right?
Mm-hmm. And private
never
school
went
all the
to
way
public.
through.
Yeah.
And they're even Christian. So, yeah, so it's
she suffered a lot of bullying and ostracizing.
And overly disciplination is everywhere, down to making us show our socks to make sure they were a certain color, otherwise we get a demerit. No show socks, but you're going to make us show them, and then you get a demerit if it's not black or blue. And that's the only one example I could really go on about it, honestly.
Yeah. So it's there's all kinds of different things that can come with that entire mess of other people being in charge of the education of your students, but especially if you don't have a direct input.
The whole classroom approach.
The whole classroom approach.
Yeah, factory model.
But I'm going to say for me personally especially, it would have never been a good thing, because I would have, even as a very small child, I could not stand, even though my mom was there working for the daycare, she knew the lady and she was a part of it, she had a big part of it, so she would work there and bring me.
And there were only 7 kids in the whole thing.
Only 7 kids, and I would act out. I was angry, I was upset, I felt.
He wouldn't get dressed in the morning. I would have to take clothes with me. He was only 18 months when we first started, 2 years old, but I would have to take his clothes with us because he would refuse.
I felt intruded upon by being surrounded with people. It triggered kind of this survival kind of fight or flight reflex in me. I realize now years later I have had what is called social anxiety, and so that's how it manifested as a child. Was I wanted to fight and keep other people from getting in my bubble. and very defensive over like my turn and things that I wanted and stuff like that. And it wasn't just like, it wasn't like the bullying kind of a thing, but it was like I felt bullied by everybody and by everything. Like I was just extremely uncomfortable in that kind of group setting, and put me on edge. And I hated being stuck somewhere that somebody else was like forcing me to be there, and I didn't want to be there. And I was just very free spirited, and that whole setup where everybody does the same thing at the same time, and you're not free to make your own decisions and do things your way. That was very upsetting to me, and I never would have done well with
So
that.
he would always say, "Call Grandma, have Grandma come and get me." And
Grandma
so
would come get me, and she saved me from the daycare and got me away from there.
took him garage sailing.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that, and I did great. And if I could interact with people on my own terms, and in that kind of scenario, I could actually talk to people. I would start conversations and stuff as a little kid, but not in that kind of setting, in that kind of scenario, especially with peers. I was never comfortable with peers. I was more comfortable.
The same age group.
Yeah, the same age group. I was always more comfortable with people that are older than me and that were seem more stable to me. I could tell that other kids and stuff my age were not safe, and I didn't know what they were going to do.
Trust
Yeah,
older people.
yeah, and and I was very sensitive. So if I had been mistreated, I would have really started to react, and I would have really fought back, and not necessarily in measure, and not necessarily in wholesome ways. I would have overreacted. So I probably would have gotten in a lot of trouble in school. I probably would have been one of those juvenile delinquent kids, because I would not have put up with the kind of treatment that is seen as like normal behavior that kids are supposed to have to just deal with. Well, you just gotta have to deal with those bullies and stuff like that. Just toughen up or whatever. I wouldn't have toughened up like that. I would have toughened up in a bad way. I would have become the bully of the bullies. Like that's the kind of thing that would have happened. So I think my whole course in life is largely due to the fact that I was homeschooled, and because of that, I've been able to calm and mellow out. I've been able to go through, the different stages of development and come to the point in my adulthood and be able to realize, oh, I am a highly sensitive person. That's a thing. Being a highly sensitive person is a thing. Being an introvert is a thing. Being an empath is a thing. It's that's and having social anxiety, that's a thing.
Yeah.
I had that because of all of those factors, all those things that make me who I am.
So it's not the best thing for everybody to go to a classroom setting and have school in that kind of way.
And this stuff is it's not a disorder. It's not a downside. It's an asset. It makes me able to understand other people. It helps me to be able to really be really great in my relationships, where I can really understand other people's feelings. I can read the body language. I can sense when people are upset. I know how to help. I know how to be very sensitive to other people's hurts and the things that are going on. It makes me really effective in the ways that I counsel other people and the ways that I relate to other people. So these are assets, but they would have been like weaknesses in that kind of a setting.
They would be seen as weaknesses.
They would be seen as weaknesses. It would turn out to be like a weakness, and that was already hard enough for me to deal with insecurities and feeling like those things were problems. I had to find out over time that these are actually important parts of me and of my nature that help me operate, that help me actually do what I was created to do. So to not see it as a problem was already hard enough for me. So I did not need to be in that setting. So thankfully, because of homeschooling, because of having an approach that I am directing my own learning, I have to learn and have to know myself. I have to figure out, my direction. It's ultimately that responsibility is on me. It's self-directed education. If you're doing it the way I think it ought to be done, and really how you should be setting up any student anyway. Even if you feel like you have to direct them in their earliest stages, well, when they become adults, you can't direct them your entire existence, or their entire existence at least, because they're going to outlive you, hopefully. So at some point, they're going to have to direct their own life.
Yeah.
So it set a really good foundation for me to be able to, assess where am I going with my life? What am I doing? Understanding the responsibility that I need to choose what am I going to do with my life. I can't just, deal with the social pressure of, oh, you need to have a job or you need to have a direction or, what are you going to do to make money? Like, I need to have purpose. I need to have a dream. I need to have a vision. I need to be driven for something on this earth and not just exist and not just live somebody else's dream, live somebody else's idea. And that would have been really hard if I was in any other environment other than home education. That left me able to explore and to decide for myself what really matters to me, to pursue things I was really passionate about, that I really cared about, to master subjects that were of interest to me, that, that I felt really drawn to, that I had any kind of, skill in. And, as far as the things that I didn't want to do, when they had cross intersection with the areas I cared about, when they had intersectionality with the things I cared about, then I could learn them and I could pick them up because it helped with something that really mattered to me. It helped with something that, and that was a point, like kind of like the dust that moisture accumulates on in the clouds. That's the point where a cloud is actually formed. I had that point that the moisture could condense on. And so the things that were not as easy for me to pick up became easier because I could relate it to these things that mattered, these things that drove me. And
Talk about your relationship with math.
so I have a very interesting relationship with math. I hated geometry. Euclidean style kind of geometry, I could not do it with the proofs and all that stuff. It made me mad.
We even tried Life of Fred.
I could not do it because there was just something about the entire approach, the entire way. And we find out later that this is what was called new math, and it was introduced in the 1950s, I think, 1950s or 1960s.
Yeah, it's not so new anymore.
And it turns out that new math was something that I did not take to it at all. I did not like the way that they force-fed logic and the different.
Just having to memorize so much.
The memorization, so much memorization, and it was memorization of things that I couldn't care less about.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I have to memorize on the basis of it being something that I'm passionate about, that I really enjoy or like it, or else just repetition that just happens to be there. So I don't even realize that I've memorized the thing. I have to either do memorization based on the fact that I loved it that much and it really stuck with me, or just I have to be tricked into memorizing it. If I try it on purpose, it upsets me and it doesn't really stick well. And then I get frustrated because I'm so bad at it. So it doesn't work for me like that. So that all the proofs and the stuff that was involved, it just was not
the
working.
Proofs and the theorems.
It was not working
yeah.
for me. I would just ask questions like, why? Why do I care if this equals that and that
this
does
angle
this?
is corresponding.
What does that have to do with me? What does that
yeah.
have to do with anything I want to do in life? Like, what does that have to do with any real world application? It wasn't practical. It didn't have anything to do with anything I cared about. So it was frustrating and it was a kind of thinking that just did not really jive with me at all. That just didn't really make any sense. So I finally had to just, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm just not doing this. Like, it's not doing anything for me, and I don't see where it fits into anything I'm going to do with my life. But what did work for me was business math. I loved business math. I loved getting into ratios. I loved getting into, understanding how money works and how it correlates, the stock market and, forex trading and even into commodities. Like, I was fascinated by that stuff, and I was really interested in learning, about how information is presented on those graphs, and following like even options trading traders, not just investors. Seeing about how you actually average volume in trading and you follow trends and you try to understand the direction of price vectors throughout a day and over a period of months and weeks to try to figure out where things are going. I was fascinated. It actually made sense to me. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the whole money math as a whole, like calculating how much could I make in a year if I took and I did this and I did that, and if I use these different trading strategies, and if I was to take this business idea and was to scale it out, how much money could I make if I, put so many hours of effort into it, and here's the costs of equipment. And I would just work through that stuff, like an accountant, I guess, and I would enjoy it. I would enjoy working through that in my head, thinking about if a business model could be
I was shocked.
beneficial, if it could actually make money.
I didn't think he would ever want anything to do with anything that had to do with math, and here he was. That became his life for a while.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I like abstract maths. I like the non-Euclidean geometries. Whether it's whether you're dealing with what's required for superstrings theory, or with just even what's that word, babe, that I use all the time?
Oh, the word of the month or last 2 months. Drum roll. Fractal. Trees are fractal. Weeds are fractal. The waves are fractal. The wind is fractal.
Fractal geometry. I love fractal geometry. So between that and then just and then getting into even abstract physics of general relativity or quantum theory, this is math heavy stuff. Do I understand all the math? No, I don't get all of it, but I get the concepts. I get a lot of the ideas and where what it basically means, what it breaks down to. I can't do the calculations in my head. I can't understand every single formula I look at, especially when it gets really complicated. But I can get into Planck's constant. I can get into things like that. I can get into the Doppler effect. I can understand these different things and understand the ramifications. And grasping the concept, the fact that even time is relative, that's really cool. Like, this is cool stuff. I love that kind of higher level math and its applications and the kinds of ideas that can come.
So you kind of skipped past geometry and algebra. Well, you
trigonometry.
Did
I did algebra. I didn't do algebra 2.
No, didn't do algebra 2. Didn't do trigonometry or calculus.
I enjoyed algebra. Algebra itself, I actually really enjoyed. I liked it. I liked the idea.
We used a whole different approach.
Yeah, we did.
We used the manipulatives. We used those little.
Yeah, but then I also did it a little bit in Abeka. I think I did it in the workbook, but we used those things for me to get
real world math.
Once I understood it, I really liked it because it was you can
solving
the fact
puzzles.
that and it's really a lot of the scientific math is algebraic, and
yeah.
I love that you can figure out something that you don't know by the stuff that you do know. It's very deductive in nature, and so it's really kind of my jam. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed algebra a lot when I got it. It didn't bother me that we used letters instead of just numbers and like things that make other people upset. It didn't bother me. I was like, hey, I get it. Okay, n is some unknown number. All right, cool. We're trying to figure out what it is. I liked it. Once I understood the process, it was cool. So so I have a very interesting relationship with math. It probably wouldn't have worked if I had to be in just a standard academic situation where I had to try to figure it all out.
You would have just had that
here's
attitude.
the material, here's the curriculum. You gotta learn it. You gotta learn it just like this.
The attitude, I hate math.
Yeah, I would have just thought I hate math.
Yeah, that's how it was in private school. They would give us, here's some formulas, here's a couple of examples. Now work them out on the board and expect us to figure it out. But we're not supposed to be teaching ourselves. Yeah, maybe have us work on our own on occasion, but just throwing the book at us and just like, oh, there you go. Now learn what imaginary numbers are. And we're like, imaginary numbers? There's imaginary numbers.
And what's wrong with imaginary friends?
Yeah, we're allowed to have imaginary numbers, but not imaginary friends. And how did you feel when you were at that chalkboard trying to work?
I was sweating bullets. I was even trembling as like my heart rate was going through the roof, and I mean literally my back was soaked with sweat. It was humiliating. I've never been good at math. I never have enjoyed math. I mean, algebra, actually, I kind of enjoy algebra a little bit because at least, x equals this. But I had to take trig 3 times in college just to get a C.
Yeah.
And that was because of test corrections and going to, teach the office hours and nonstop and just trying to really hammer it out. But I didn't get a good solid math foundation. It was just like I was just happy to get a C and just move up to the next level and get my C there and move up to the next level. Okay, I'm done with that. Done with that.
Because you were going into physical.
I was going through to physical therapy originally. Well, actually, I went into nursing and then I moved into physical therapy, and physical therapy required trig. And believe it or not, nursing would have required Calc 1 and 2 in college. So
Because I'm sure nurses use so much calculus whenever they're taking care of their patients.
Yeah, taking a temperature and
anyway.
blood pressure.
yeah, no.
Yeah, but the math stuff, yeah, it's like, you know, and what was really the problem was probably not even that she couldn't grasp trigonometry, it's that they're teaching it the wrong way. Like if it had been explained to her, if she had been able to choose her curriculum, if it had been brought to her the right way, or even because you got to understand, math isn't just this standardized thing. There would probably be an alternate form of, you know, doing the same thing that trigonometry does, but just a different system that would have made sense to her.
Fit her learning style.
Yeah, because you know you got to deal with the fact that all these different maths, they're a calculus, an algebra, a trigonometry. It's a certain way, a certain system.
It's how you write things down.
Yeah, yeah. It's the way that the way that the questions, the problems, the mathematical language is ordered is just using those words. And so you could use a type of geometry to solve a, you know, algebraic question or vice versa. You know, it just depends on how you're using the system. There's different ways of viewing and thinking of math and thinking of numbers. And you're not getting any of that meta mathematics from, you know, what you learn in school. You're not getting that stuff from most schools and from most educations unless you go into like higher learning with math, you know, unless you really try to get into being a mathematician or something, you know, going into physics or whatever. But otherwise, you get, you know, and then you're going to have to learn all those different things.
Do that?
How many people have time?
How many people become mathematicians?
Not many. And you don't need to understand that there's different ways to do math. You don't need to be a mathematician to understand there's different ways of explaining and understanding things that work equally well. You know, there's different approaches.
Most people are not going to need all of that in their daily lives.
I got to do that because I got to just pick out the ones that really worked for me and that I could use to solve the problems and grow my brain in really cool ways. Like, I got to do that, you know, and if I had just had a curriculum forced down my throat, I wouldn't have got to do that. I wouldn't have got to do that. If like, do this, pass or fail, you know, you got to get through it, or if you don't, you're going to get bad grades. Like, that would have been horrible. I would have, you know, been forced to perform. It would have made me mad. It would have driven me by fear, and so I probably would have succeeded, but I wouldn't have really learned anything, and I would have hated it. And you know, that's because you don't really learn well when you're doing it just on the pressure to succeed. You don't really learn well when you're just afraid. Like, and a lot of times you end up forgetting everything you learned in high school or everything you learned in college when you were just stressing your way through the whole
And you're doing it for a grade.
You're doing it for a grade. Unfortunately, all learning I did was never for the sake of stress or anybody else's idea of success or anything like that. It was mostly just for the love of learning. It was mostly just for the enjoyment of the thing and for being able to do things, cool things I wanted to do, whether it was program a video game or, you know, come up with a trading strategy or, you know, come up with a business idea. Anything I wanted to do.
An invention?
An invention, yeah. I went through a big phase of wanting to invent and coming up with inventing ideas. And some of the things I actually had thought of, but, you know, I just didn't pursue all the way through because I would have had that. There was a lot more involved, obviously, with being an inventor than what a kid would have been really capable of.
Getting the patent.
But some of the ideas and stuff I kind of figured out actually are technologies that we have today, that happen today. I had that kind of mind, but that never would have worked forced into a mold, forced into this standardized kind of junk. I mean, and there was even something. Are you comfortable with me talking about what I taught you in math?
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
So, Brandi, through all the stuff, and she passed all this stuff, and you know, good grades. She's a great student,
honors student.
Awesome.
A 4.0. But even with the math in there, that was my only C. Like everything else was A's.
And she's brilliant. You know, she's
a smart girl.
Extremely smart, and she had to be to get through all that stuff because she would have been beat out if she didn't really just work super hard. All she practically did in her life was school.
Yeah, literally, all my homework was my life. I mean, and a lot of it was math. Yeah. I spent a lot of hours trying to figure out 20 problems that were due the next day, and I'm just like, I don't know know what I'm doing, and I don't even have the answer to at least look at, because they'll show your work, and they don't care if you can do it in the calculator and get the answer. You have to show all of your work too. And I spent hours on one problem.
She lost sleep to do work.
Yeah,
and
literally.
it's not because she was goofing off, it's
Nope.
because that's how much of her life she's having to dedicate.
I didn't have friends to goof off with.
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah.
It sounds like me homework was my life too.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I wanted those A's.
She's extremely smart, and she went through all of that. But at the end of the day, she told me, I think it was a couple weeks ago, and I was really surprised. She's like, I don't really understand fractions. I really don't know how to deal with them. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I was like,
it's bigger than this, but
how do these things work? And I was like, you know what? This is not your fault. They didn't teach you right, because fractions are not that difficult. I can help you. Here you go. Here's pi. Here's how a pi works. Here's how these different things work. Here's a couple different ways of thinking of fractions, because the homeschool approach involves a lot of times for us. We see things a lot of different ways. We use different manipulatives. We think of things different ways, and she was never given that benefit. They just put it to her the way they did, and so.
Flat on a page.
Somehow, she was able to get through the process.
Read the module and do the problems, and just like there's other problems that are not even that type of problem that involve this thing, but you need to involve this thing with this module, and just we don't have the module for it.
Real world grasp never happened. Yeah.
There's no application.
And I was able to just show her a couple different things of, okay, this is what it is, here it is, and boom, she got it. I was like, yeah, you're smart. You can handle this. This is not a big deal. It's just they didn't explain it the way you needed to have it explained to you. This was a failure of your teacher. This was not your failure. But, and that really got me. It's just like, wow. Like,
and that's really a failure of the system.
People are smart.
Had time to teach it a certain way.
Kids are smart. People are smart. This idea of average intelligence is bull. That's not the truth. People are smart, and they have a capacity for brilliance. Everybody has their own capacity for genius. But a lot of the times, the issue is that we judge people by standards that are set by a systematic, kind of way that this is the only kind of intelligence that matters. This is the only way to do things that matters. If you try to solve this problem any other way than by this method and this means, then it's irrelevant and doesn't count. Even if it's the best possible solution that you stumbled upon. But no, because you didn't use this way, it doesn't count. It doesn't mean anything. And that's the kind of thinking that you get with those systems. That's the kind of thinking.
With Common Core,
Common Core is the worst for that.
From what I've seen, they expect children to learn the matrix approach and this approach, and not paying attention to, well, maybe the matrix approach really is the best way for them, but this is really hard for them. They really can't get it this way, and this is just makes no sense at all to them. They're expected to learn all three of those ways, show their work, and I just feel sorry for the kids who have to go through that. It's just not fair. It's not right.
It's a Kelsey.
I know, Kelsey.
That's one of my sisters.
Hello, homeschooler.
Not a homeschooler.
Yeah, but it is so it's been a wonderful thing for me, because I can find what works for me and go with that, and it's a lot easier because I lived my whole life that way since I was given that as a standard since I was young, since I was a child, and this has always been a part of my life. I just naturally research. I just naturally look for the answers. I naturally try to find ways that work for me. I don't just do things any standardized way. If I find the standardized way works best, fine, and I use it. But I'm not afraid to break some rules, that are not really important rules, that are not really, an issue of morality, or not really an issue of what's right or wrong. It's just, well, this is how everybody's always done it. And I'm able to say, well, but maybe it's not the best way. And I can explore that and be comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with being a nonconformist, and that's something, and I really need to be. I need to be a nonconformist, because what I do is artistic by nature. What I do is about writing, and is about counseling and helping other people deal with their problems and dealing with things that are going on in their life. Everything that I'm doing requires that I be a nonconformist. Requires that I think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing that homeschooling has done for me, is given me the freedom to think outside the box and giving me the ability to take responsibility for my own education, for my own life. And, I can't blame my teacher or my system or other people around me, because I know I can flow back and forth between different systems and different ways of thinking. I can go through different languages of thought and different forms of logic, and it's and recognize also there's such thing as emotional intelligence, and there's such a thing as spiritual intelligence, and those are different from just head knowledge and involving processes and things, the natural intelligence of the world. And then there's so many different multiple intelligences that just deal with the mind. So it's like I've had freedom to express myself through all these different forms, find the ones that really work for me, and find which ones, if it's a barrier, if it's a gap, I can be aware of that barrier, I can be aware of that gap, I can see where I need to shore up that weakness if it gets in the way of what I'm really interested in doing with my life. But I don't have to put my whole concentration on the things that I'm not good at or that I don't really care about. They don't really drive me. And I can just be aware of those things. And I also can be aware of the need to collaborate with others who are good at those things.
Yeah.
I can practice interpersonal intelligence and realize, what? I don't have to be the expert in every area. If I can find other people to collaborate with, or if I can pay somebody else to do that thing while I focus on this where it's most profitable. Good economics, good business,
And your favorite collaborator is the one that you married, and you guys are collaborating on a podcast and some other things. What other things are you guys working on together?
Well, we have a band in the works. We're trying to get with our bass player to where we can actually just get some practice times and start making things happen. But we have a band called Majesty Enthroned, and then we're doing our own duo project. He does guitar and vocals. I'm the drummer. I'm working on my vocals, working on them. I like to multitask and be able to sing and drum at the same time. And I also have my own
That would be
project.
unique.
I know, like Kelly Keegi of Night Ranger does both.
Okay.
And I think Phil Collins, which is who originally inspired me to play drums, does both. But yeah, very unique. I've only seen those
I
two
don't
do
see
it.
how
It's
anybody
very
can
rare.
do it.
Well, and then Matt Sorum. Matt Sorum does it. But yeah, three. Yeah, three.
Three out of the whole
Three out
world.
of everybody that I can think of, which I'm 70s, 80s rock. That's where my genre is. But yeah, to be able to do all of it at once. But I go underneath Fedora Drummer. I have my own drumming thing, which he does the audio
sound engineering.
editing for, and technical terms here. And of course our podcast, Partnership Vision podcast, and we've got 5 episodes now so far.
Yeah, I think we have 5. We're going to be is the latest one that we did with her, because we actually did an episode with my mother on
They
this.
interviewed me.
Yeah, interviewed her. So her debut on our podcast.
You can find it on my Safe Haven homeschooling page.
Yep.
On Facebook.
Yep. So is that the 6th? That might be the 6th one.
Maybe. Well, we
You
have
did the
sixth?
an
3.
intro 3-part series.
Okay.
And then,
So this is the 5th. All right, my bad. This is the 5th.
Yeah. And I didn't mention, but our duo project is Amor Visionaire, which we haven't really gotten much up there yet, but it's in the works as well.
Yeah, we have an @ on Instagram for
Yeah,
that. So.
all platforms.
Yeah,
really,
for all platforms.
Pick your platform, any platform.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Brandi is like a graphic artist. Is that what you would?
I guess so. I do. I'm really good with like visual art. I lived for my art class back in school. For just FYI, I do graphite drawing and painting to a degree, but I went to stay in place and stay in graphite drawing, and so that's kind of spread to actual graphics, and I can do logos and put things together, and things just sort of click. I've actually done all the logos for our projects. So it's just like, I don't know. I love.
She also
being
does a lot of
creative.
photography and editing the pictures and stuff like that. She's really good with that. Great at taking pictures.
So she's become a homeschooler.
I've been adopted in.
So, what do you think? How has his being homeschooled affected your attraction to him, and how well you guys work together, and how has that affected your relationship with Shawn? The fact that he was homeschooled.
The fact that he's never stopped enjoying learning. He loves learning, and he still seeks out books and videos. And when we're not doing anything, he's learning. And I mean, he's excited about it. Like the whole fractal thing, I give him a hard time about it because it has become the word of the month. It's like, oh, that's fractal too. I'm like, okay. And then he'll read something. He's like, well, this combines with this, and this interacts with that, and this, and it goes over my head. But I'm like, I'm so happy that you're happy. But I'm actually learning things by proxy, the things that I do kind of understand through all these crazy sciences. I'm more of a writer, and I love English and things, but the fact that he's not, like we said, he works outside the box, he thinks outside the box, and I wouldn't do well with somebody that likes to stay in this little confined space. He's creative, he wants to learn, he likes to broaden the horizons, and it's like we're always going to be moving forward no matter what. And that's one of our things is, to always grow and keep each other accountable in everything and work in unity and be outside the box, because who wants to be in a box, for goodness sakes?
Not me. Yeah.
But he's inspiring me to learn more, just even with the math, I'm like, well, maybe I should try to understand some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's worth a try.
I can try. I'll do my best.
I have learned a lot from Gary and all the technical writing stuff and all the different sciences that he tells me the intricate details of. And I'm glad I've learned things that I never would have if he hadn't. Shawn takes after his dad somewhat in that. But yeah, I think homeschooling set Shawn free to.
Yeah.
In fact, Gary did learn a lot on his own, and he didn't do well in school. He went to public school, and his grades did not show his intelligence at all. That way did not work for him, and maybe that's why my kids probably would not have done very well in public school, and the Lord led me to homeschool. But I really think homeschooling helps most children to be set free like that.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I think too is without putting all that emphasis on a grading system, without putting all that emphasis on making them match up to standards, instead just letting them be free to explore and find things out. That makes it so that learning is just natural, and it is just something that you enjoy. And I'm not afraid to fail at trying to understand something like statistics or whatever. Like
You're not afraid it's going to affect your grade if you don't do it right the first time.
Yeah, I'm not afraid if I can't perform in that area or whatever. I just laugh and I'm like, okay, oh well, I guess that's not my thing, or I guess I need to try to come back again and revisit this at a later point.
You don't have some kind of a shame or
yeah. Self-condemnation is like, well, if I can't get this, I must be stupid, or I must be just a failure because everybody else is getting it. I'm watching everybody.
Yeah.
And then I'm like.
How do you all know how to do this?
Yeah, like we were in the same class, all 5 days in this week, right? Yeah. And
how do you guys know what
either
this
y'all
means?
are making stuff up, or you're writing notes like, I don't get this, I need help.
Yeah. And like now I'm trying to learn things in math that I never would have touched even when I was learning things as a homeschooler, because even more I've gotten to that point that's just like, I don't need to worry about whether I really succeed at this or not. Like I can just try it out, try out this kind of math, see if I can figure it out. Well, it's not really working very well. Okay, I'll come back around to it later, or try it from a different angle. Well, what's another explanation? Like something like getting the theory of general relativity. If you have a hard time with it, get another video, check out another book, go to YouTube and search up other videos that explain general relativity. Try to find somebody who uses the explanation that makes sense to you, that can fit in and work with you. And so with that kind of mentality, and really homeschooling is what set that standard for me. I still held myself to these levels of thinking I need to be the best, I need to get all my answers right in my math, and I still personally put that on me. She never put that on me. The approach never put that on me. I was a perfectionist and wanted to do everything right all the time. It would have been way worse if I had somebody forcing me on top of it all. So thankfully that allowed me to get out of that kind of way of that pressured thinking. And over time, from that process and from those standards, that foundation laid, I've learned to just be able to be a relaxed learner and just enjoy it and just really pursue my passion, pursue my, delight-driven learning is really the best.
Yes.
It really is. Like,
it is.
you do better. You really are able to retain the information. You really are able to, very effectively organize the things that you learn, in a structure in your brain and a structure in your mind that makes sense to you and allows you to access it and navigate through those different areas, an intersectionality of the different things you've learned and you've experienced in life. It happens
You
so much
attach
more
it to
naturally.
your previous learning. You hook it on.
It's very easy to adapt, and so it's just the best way, really, for any learning approach. There are some hard things in life, but we shouldn't try to make life hard.
Right.
We shouldn't be searching for the worst possible experiences. You shouldn't take the area that you are the most terrible in and be determined.
Challenge yourself to do it or die.
Like Shaquille O'Neal never should have tried his hardest to be the best jockey that has ever raced a horse. Like that would have been really dumb. That would have been such a waste of his life.
7 foot something.
Yeah. Like, he could have tried his hardest and never succeeded. It would have never been any good for him. Like, that's the kind of thing. It's just like, if you weren't made for it, if it's not something that comes naturally to you in that kind of a way, then there's a good possibility that maybe you just need to learn enough to be functional in it in some area or aspect, or maybe it's not even valid.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not even important. Sometimes
you're not supposed to be a jockey at all.
Yeah. Sometimes we need to have the freedom to ask that question, is that really even something I need to know how to do? Is that really even going to actually be helpful? Or is it just going to waste time and take up capacity that I can devote to something else?
Don't get mad if your kid asks that question. It might be a legitimate question. Am I ever going to use this?
What?
Probably not. And then if they try it and it's really just frustrating and they can't do it at all, I always just say that's not their thing. Have them do something else that they are good at and it makes sense for them and what they're going to do later on in life.
Absolutely. I would say self-awareness and self-confidence and self-direction are the biggest things I've gotten from my homeschooling experience, and they're foundational to who I am today. And then on top of it all, like, just for me personally, just having God as the foundation of our family, having God as the foundation of everything that we have done in our family, and that's what I've soaked in, that's what I've lived in my whole life, and that set that foundation for me. And I've had my times that I kind of went off and did my own thing, but I have had that to know that it's possible to live your whole life for God. It's possible to live your whole life, for Christ. And that's something that I grew up in, that was foundational, it's fundamental to my whole life. And you could, in a different learning environment, be pushed, have very Darwinian principles pushed upon you, have very anti-God principles pushed upon you. You could find yourself struggling because you're so impressionable at that age. And so having things filtered into you, and it's not even just about the blatant words of, well, there is no God, or Jesus Christ is everything, or whatever. It's just the kind of thinking.
It's the worldview.
Having, even in a Christian school, like, just because you're in a Christian school doesn't mean different teachers won't have their own kind of agendas, because we had a certain approach or viewpoint really pressed upon us by one certain teacher that we had, for 3 different things. And he was always kind of like this. Oh, and this is how this connects to back to this. It's pushing
dogmatic.
Very, and it was getting to the point where all of us were actually getting angry. It's like, okay, yeah, so we get your viewpoint. Keep your viewpoint. We're gonna get our own, and we're gonna work from the Bible-based point. But you're not free from certain things just because you go to a private school. It's so important for you guys to know. It's like, for one, a lot of parents pull their kids out of public school to put them into private school to get them into line. So we still have a lot of, I guess we could use the word delinquents, that still show up in the private schools and do implant their own cliques, their own bands of people, and they do create these rings, basically, to where there are bad things that happen that do still take place in public schools. So there's an switching, because you do still have those people.
You have the same basic kinds of kids, whether or not it's public school or private school, and the same, parenting gap that can be for some of those kids and stuff.
And I mean, and it's kind of like a side point, but like back in children's church. So again, another way of somebody else teaching your kids stuff. Uh, Back in children's church, I was probably 7, 8, somewhere in there, and it still sticks with me today. This one lady that was over it for the majority of the time, she was telling us that we need to I'm paraphrasing, putting in more precise language here, but you need to be more precise with your prayers because God doesn't want to hear all that. You need to be point, 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 and that's it, and then say amen because He doesn't want to hear all that. You don't want to bore God. And it's just like, and I always question that, and that's another thing. Your kids won't always know or know how to or feel comfortable with telling you things that happen in even a private school because they're underdeveloped or they're just insecure or they just don't know to, depending on the age, whether to actually even mention
or
something.
have the words for it.
Or they'll just take it for granted. Well, I guess this is true.
There's so much stuff that I'm sure my parents still don't know because I for one, I was an outcast. I was insecure. I was thrown out of everything, even though I was trying to make friends. I wasn't like a shut-in or anything, and I wasn't making trouble, but there were still issues. So just in asking if, how was school? You're always going to get, it was okay, and then trot upstairs, it's just like that one, either you both are disconnected, two, something's going on but they don't want to talk about it, or three, they don't know how to talk about it, or four, they don't know to mention it. So
yeah,
go more in depth. More, I mean, don't grill the child, but try to get more of a relatable conversation going instead of just the formulaic, are you okay? Like, you gotta be more relatable with your kids. Actually have working conversations.
Yeah. And what have you noticed about the other kids in the family about like what they choose to?
Oh yeah, I will never forget when I started. When we were just friends and I was coming over. I would like Morgan. He's 19, 20 now.
19.
Okay, well he's still. I like. He would put on a YouTube video and hear all this historic verbiage, and I'm like, did she tell you to put that on? I was like, and then he's explaining it, and that's I forget one of the things that he used, but that's this historic figure, and I'm like, you weren't told to do this. So and he's actually helping out with the younger ones, saying, well, okay, well, I'm going to show you this person, or I'm going to show you this wildlife video, or this how-to video, or whatever, but they're still educating themselves on their free time. Well, for me, it's like, because homework was my life, anytime that I had, I was out. I was like, fuck that.
Yep.
But with them, they love learning, and it's just, that was such a new concept for me. I was like, you can enjoy learning, and without being told to do something, you want to go look for this video. I was impressed. I was like, well, where was this when I was growing up?
Yeah. I have found that with a lot of homeschool moms who are like, man, I wish I had been homeschooled. I think I would have done a lot. I mean, I got all the A's, but I was a very quiet, shy, insecure person, and I think it mostly was probably, I thought it was a pretty good experience, but it probably wasn't as the kind of experience I could have had if I had just had more freedom to learn what I wanted to learn, and didn't have all of those people around all the time.
Yeah, that's very true, and that's another thing that I was wanting to mention earlier, was that something for him too is that he was able to have all this building up before completely just being thrown out into the world for everybody that's gonna really just run him over. He still have the outing and still be socialized and everything, yes, but he had more time with his mom, more time with his dad, to be able to know things, understand things, and be built up with affirmative words instead of
In
going
a safe
to this
place.
in a safe place, and learning about things and not being made to look like they're stupid or whatever, or being pressed into some sort of a box, but being built up for all those years made him more confident and more outgoing. I mean, I like the stereotype, oh, homeschoolers aren't socialized enough. They're like, I don't know all the verbiage, but don't go with the stereotype. I mean, he's fine, guys. All of them are fine.
And they will talk to people of all ages and all socioeconomic backgrounds.
I've seen several of them walk in the neighborhood and they'll make conversation with all of the different neighbors, or at least wave or help them out. And one of them actually is babysitting now, and she's
13.
13? Yeah, 13.
And a little 5-month-old baby.
Was looking at doing dog sitting or dog walking and different things, just
running her own business.
Wanting to run her own business and help people out. You know, it's like, no, not they're fine.
Yeah.
They should not be stereotyped.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, you know, it's like I was saying, that everybody's smart. People also just naturally love learning. If you don't teach them, they hate learning. And people actually enjoy other people and love to have relationships. If you don't teach them that they're going to be forced into relationships, whether they like it or not, and those might be really bad or they might be really good, but it's just pretty much like, here you go, here's your class, survive. You know, that's...
Try to find a friend. Try to find somebody that'll be nice to you.
It's like this, you know, people don't have to live like the world, like life is the lifeboat. Like, who are you going to keep on the boat and who are you going to throw off? You know, it's like public schools and things like that are just teaching you are forced to deal with this certain group of people, and you have to try to fit in, and that's life.
Survive,
yeah.
And may the odds be ever in your favor.
And that's wrong. Like, the reality is, we should choose the kind of quality of people that we have in our lives. We should choose people who align with our vision, where we want to go, what we want to build. You don't get as a business partner somebody who hates you, and somebody who wants to, you know, if you want to run an ice cream shop but they want to run a bicycle shop, you know, like, and so you're constantly, no, you don't form a partnership with somebody like that. You know, you can be like, all right, you go do your bicycle thing. Hey, I hope it works. I'm going to do my ice cream thing, you know, like.
And you also don't need 22 best friends.
No.
And you're not going to have 22 best friends.
Nope.
No, and a lot of people don't even keep up with anybody that they grew up out of schools and stuff like that, especially these days. So it's just like the entire thing is like, lacks relevance.
Kept up with your best friend, and you were both homeschooled.
In fact, pretty much my main friends that were homeschooled, and some of the time, which I didn't really get to spend that much time with them, we have really good friendships, really lasting relationships. You know, that Brandi and I both talk to them, and we have a lot to do with them and their wives, and you know, like the whole myth of being homeschooled, meaning that you're not socialized. That's not true. The fact is, like, unless you do it in such a way, unless you're doing family life in such a way that you're keeping out other people and you're making them afraid of everybody else and making them afraid of strangers, unless parents are intentionally trying to put fear in their kids about having relationships with other people, the natural state of things is going to be they're going to make friends with people they like, people who they don't like, they're going to choose to not have to do with. And they're going to learn to have some kind of sense of identity in themselves. It's like, you know what? This isn't my group. This isn't my clique or whatever.
Friends.
I can choose my friends.
Exactly. And that ties into the forced group activities I had to do, because there's one time, all right, there was a class of 13 basically. We were broken up as evenly as possible, and we were assigned a book. We were supposed to do a book review, and each of us were supposed to pick out what we were each going to do, whether it be, you know, summarize or pick out the literary devices or who knows what else. I'd already kind of blocked that out.
Those are things you really don't have to remember.
Yeah, no. But so all of us were trying to do something, and I wasn't driving at the time. My dad had a complete knee replacement surgery right at that time too, and I was at the hospital with him. I couldn't get a ride. They were having a book meeting or whatever. And they up and decided, well, so-and-so didn't read the book. Well, I'm sorry you didn't make it, but we're going to have you do his part too. And so I was like, hey, I'm still working on this. We had like 3-4 papers going, 2-3 presentations. I'm not exaggerating, guys.
They put way too much on you guys.
Daily quizzes, weekly tests, pop quizzes. We had a perfect storm going on top of everything. And I was like, you guys, I can't make it. And I texted him, I was like, hey, I'm sorry, but no. and in a very detailed manner. But I was like, no, I'm not. I'm doing my part. He can do his part. And then when it came to presentation day, so half our thing was to actually write a paper, and the other half was to present. So when it came to presenting, I was at the very end, and they went through the line, and then they did my part to where I didn't have anything to say. And I ended up getting about, I think it was a 70 at first, until the guy actually went and confessed to the teacher, hey, I didn't do my part, and we took hers. But forcing us to all work together when there was a few of us, because we had our own little outcast clique in the class too, and I was away from my fellow outcasts, which also made me an outcast in the outcast group. So really,
You were double outcast.
It was just I was double outcast. I was special.
It's like a dystopian world. That's what this stuff forces, is like a dystopian society. You really want people to grow up with the idea that they gotta live like they're in a dystopian world? Is that really what you want? You really want them to live like it's Hunger Games, or like it's one of those 80s movies, post-apocalyptic movies where kids are smoking cigarettes and stuff? Like, come on. Like, what kind of world are we trying to build here? Like, if you want kids to have good and healthy relationships and to not be afraid of people, actually love people, don't throw them in a situation where they're forced to deal with people, whether they like it or not, with strangers and whatnot.
And their grade depends on it, their performance depends on it, and it puts everything on the line.
They need to be able to have freedom to decide who they associate with and who they don't. For one thing, that's teaching boundaries, because what about predators? What about people that prey upon other people? What about kidnappings? What about the human trafficking situation in America? This is dark, but this is real. This is real stuff. If you teach people that they just have to, put up with whoever's around them, whatever treatment they get, as long as it's an establishment thing, as long as it's the authoritative thing, then what kind of things might they put up with once somebody
them up for?
Yeah, and once some system or some person is able to seize that identity as the authority figure in their life, or as the establishment in their life, then they're just going to follow their programming, their training, that they just, you got to do what the boss says, you got to do what the teacher says, you got to do with what whoever says, not able to question, not able to think, wait a minute, this is wrong, I'm being abused, this is not right. Like self-awareness, self-confidence, self-direction, being able to do real critical thinking and think about whether things are really right or not in the world and what's going on. These are skills that homeschooling taught me and helped me to gain, and that I'm able to help others learn and impart to others because of it.
And it kind of ties into that side point. It's not the same extreme, but another thing that occurred is that we were all of us girls were forced to change in a office room. We were so small at the time. We didn't have a gym. We didn't have a locker room. We just had this office, and there was nothing to get behind. There was nothing to cover yourself up with. But we were forced to all change in there for our athletics.
Yeah.
And if you were caught going to the bathroom to change in the bathroom, you got a demerit, because you weren't supposed to be changing in the bathroom.
So you got punished for modesty.
Yeah, and I've always been extremely modest. Like, I don't wear yoga pants out in public. I wear shorts over my yoga pants. And they're loose shorts. It might look funny, but I don't care. Like, not everybody needs to see everything. So it's just like, even back then, I didn't want to change in front of the other girls. It's
that
like,
killed me.
It was awful. I sweated. I tried to get as much privacy as I possibly could. And I still snuck off to the bathroom. I didn't care. It's like, I want my modesty more than I don't want that demerit. It's like, catch me if you can.
And these days it's just, that kind of thing is even worse, because you have all this gender confusion stuff going on around and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you could have a boy in your girl's bathroom.
Yeah. Or a girl that thinks she likes other girls, weird stuff. So it's like, more than ever,
Which we had some of those in there, honestly, that we had to change with. That he's actually really right on point with that. We had at least 2 that we were having to change in front of.
Oh man. Yeah. Yes.
From public school.
Yeah. So that was great. Do you have any last points you want to make about?
Last point, I guess. So, I know the thing about homeschooling is that it takes effort, obviously, and it can be like wild country. It can seem like you're kind of out there on your own, and in some ways it's like you have to be a little bit of a rebel, because the whole system and everybody else is just like, why don't you just send your kid to public school? What the heck? What's wrong with you? In some ways, you actually save a lot of effort because you don't necessarily have to deal with crazy long commutes and other, waiting in line with all these other cars before you can finally get your kid. You're saved some worries like them getting bullied and you not having any say and not being able to do anything about it. Being taught maybe something really wrong, maybe being abused by a faculty member.
Exactly, happened to me.
Stuff that you don't have to worry about because you're directing their education, you're directing what's going on in their life, and a lot of the stuff like feeling alone. Now there's enough people homeschooling in America and in the world that you can find a community that can be supportive and can help you, and like
We have all the tech now too.
all the technology that makes it easy and really just getting an education online on Google, on YouTube. You can practically develop your own curriculum. I've played around with the idea at times of creating with an entire comprehensive curriculum from preschool all the way up to like college level, just by taking YouTube videos and stuff like that and just putting it together. And here you go. Here's a curriculum for your kids to learn how to do everything and that they need in life. Like it's readily available and that's free. That's all free stuff. So it's like it doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. It doesn't have to be super hard. You don't have to go it alone. And if you need help just with the mindset and the thinking, I mean that's what my mom has for you with her whole package and what we did when we shot those videos together, which she mentioned in the earlier video that she did, the earlier live in this group, the e-course. It really will help bring peace to you and give you a sense of confidence. Because honestly, that's the biggest thing I think that homeschooling, whether homeschooling your kids or them being homeschooled, what I think the homeschool approach does for you more than any other kind of education, that's develop confidence. That's develop a self-assured individual that can choose their destiny, can choose what they want to do with their life. They can choose who they become. They're not hindered. They're not held back. If they decide they want to be a part of a group, they can get into that group. They can do it because they know they're not dependent on somebody else's acceptance to be able to get there. They know they're not waiting for conditions or circumstances, fair weather before they can get into it. They're not going to look for excuses and they're not going to look for the safest route possible. They're going to look for what really drives them and gives them, a reason for living and that they really love. And they'll have a sense of empowerment. And that's what you can have too as a teacher of homeschooling. You can learn that yourself. You can pick that up yourself, even if you have a history of being torn down because of the way you were educated and the things that happen. This is a chance for you to educate yourself. Yes. This is a chance for you to be able to learn things that you never thought you could learn, and find your own teaching style as you find the students' learning style. It's a fun process. It's deeply relational. It's just everybody grows, everybody develops. The teacher may be more than the student in some ways.
Yes.
And that is worth doing. It might seem really, really hard, but it's worth doing. And when it does get hard, just realize, don't bang your head against a wall. There might be different solutions that you need to seek out. Maybe there's a misunderstanding that you have in your relationship with your student. Maybe there is something that's an approach that you're trying something too soon or out of sync with what's really going to work for them. You can get advice, you can get wisdom from others that have already done this, and it's available to you. That e-course will be a great help, will help debunk a lot of wrong thinking, standardized thinking, because really there are multiple intelligences. We all learn our own way. We're all special. We're all unique, and we have an area of genius. We have something in us that is waiting to be lit and to shine, but you have to find the right keys. You have to find the right doors, the right paths for each person. You have to find what really makes them tick, what really sparks them, and that's homeschooling will let you do that. If you put that focus and that emphasis on that, and do that yourself. Let this be your learning experience too. Let this become your new take on life, and you're going to grow so much in your relationships, and they're going to grow in their relationships.
You'll bond more too.
Definitely.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So much more bonding in a meaningful way, not codependent and not, an antagonistic, weird kind of relationship that goes back and forth, but real, support, where eventually this person that you've taught, they become your friend and they're able to advise you in things where they've become really developed and they're really intelligent, and you can work together and you can do partnerships like we're doing.
Yes. Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned the e-course. I said I would put it in the group and I forgot. So I'll be putting that in the group so you can see where that is and how you can get a hold of that. And I'll talk some more about that tomorrow when I do my noon time. Nobody has said that another time works better for them, so I'm planning to come on tomorrow at noon. That'll be our 5th day of the challenge. That'll be the last day. But I appreciate you guys coming and doing this with me. Thank you so much.
It was fun.
That was
Glad to
absolutely
be
fun.
here.
Glad to be here, absolutely.
All right, so we will see you all tomorrow. If I don't see you live, hopefully I'll see some comments after you watch the replay tomorrow and after you watch the replay of this one, because I can't see any comments if anybody was here. But thank you for watching, for joining this challenge, and show up tomorrow because it's the last day. Okay, bye everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Wow, that was amazing.